Welcome to Unsafe Space. I'm Carter Laren. As many of you know, I recently wrote an article and released a video articulating my thoughts about Gillette's The Best Men Can Be campaign, and the so-called short film the company released to promote it. It occurred to us here at Unsafe Space, however, that you might want to take my opinions on this matter with a grain of salt, because, after all, I am tainted by my toxic masculinity. Fortunately, my co-host for our Deprogrammed show, Keri Smith, doesn't suffer from my testosterone affliction. What's more, as a former social justice warrior herself, she speaks with a unique understanding of the ideology behind Gillette's message. So, in the spirit of balance, we thought you might like to hear what Keri has to say on the matter. Here she is, and thanks for watching. Enjoy.
Hi guys, this is Keri from the Deprogrammed podcast on Unsafe Space. I'm going to be trying something new for me today, which is to read an article that I wrote because we know that some people prefer to watch a video or to listen to a podcast. So this is for you guys. Okay, the article is called Gillette Goes for Woke, an illustration in SJW convergence. By now you've probably seen the new woke Gillette commercial and heard that people are of two minds on it. Supposedly they either think it's necessary and empowering, or they're outraged. I believe it's neither necessary nor empowering, but I'm not outraged. In fact, most of the people who don't like the ad haven't seemed outraged to me. Are some people so? Sure. But you can do a lot to disregard criticism by painting it all as outrage. Personally, I'm fascinated. I think it's a good illustration of the SJW convergence that's taking place in many corporations. This ideology has a tendency, once it's taken root in a company, or organization, or church, or group, to subvert the original purpose of the company to the ideology itself, making it the priority and the lens through which everything is viewed. That's convergence. On the one hand, I find the Gillette ad unintentionally hilarious, like I do most woke ads. There's just something really funny about getting a social justice lecture from a razor company. Their attempted earnestness is comical. It lends itself to parody so easily. In fact, it's so close to parody that I couldn't help laughing out loud. Reading the comments on YouTube, which Gillette is furiously deleting, by the way, was equally funny. One of the best, now deleted ones was, "My wife's boyfriend loved this. Thank you." But the absolute funniest part of this whole debacle are the comments on their Facebook page. For some reason, they decided to try a different tactic on Facebook than on YouTube, and they've been responding to critical comments by doubling down and lecturing people. I dare you to read any of their responses, like this one below, out loud, and add, "Buy our razors" at the end without laughing. It's too funny. Like the childish game of adding "in bed" to the end of a sentence, it's been cracking me up all day. Now, this is an actual response they had to someone on their page who didn't like the video. "Hi, Ralph. Thank you for your comments. Our intent is not to blame all men. We know many men are already acting as incredible role models. We want to celebrate that and encourage these men to hold others accountable, because a few bad apples are a few too many. We will also be holding ourselves to a higher standard, because it's only by challenging ourselves to do more that we get closer to our best. Buy our razors." I just think it's so funny. You can read any of their comments and add that at the end. It cracks me up. Okay. But aside from being funny, I also find the commercial to be incredibly condescending towards men. Gillette believes that men need this lecture. As a friend put it, "You know the way you've lived your whole life and raised your kids to live? Yeah, we came up with that. Buy our razors." I don't actually know many men who need this sermon. And if you're a person who does, perhaps you should start surrounding yourself with better men. I've had some interesting discussions with people who disagree with me. One friend implied that anyone who doesn't like the ad is motivated by sexism. That's a typical SJW response, of course, accusing people of sexism or racism for having a different opinion. But one thing he said that really seemed odd to me was linking it to the Me Too movement. So it's a calculated and craven attempt to cash in on the Me Too movement. I didn't get sexually harassed so that Gillette could sell some razors. Another man who liked the ad responded to me, quote, "I'm of the opinion that resisting bullying and sexism is good," end quote. Well, I'm of that opinion too. But herein lies the reason that two people can agree on that and still hold such wildly opposing opinions on the commercial. I don't believe that the commercial is resisting bullying or sexism. I think, if anything, it's encouraging both of those things. It's more harmful than it is helpful. If the goal of this commercial were really to end sexism against women, and that's not the goal of this commercial, but people who like it seem to believe that it is, then it would be ineffective. Are there sexist men out there? Yes. Is this ad marketed towards them? No. No one who might need to hear this message, like radical Islamists or alt-right incels, for example, is going to respond to it by rethinking their misogyny. The target audience for this ideologically driven commercial are people who already subscribe to all or part of SJW ideology. It's corporate virtue signaling, plain and simple. Hey, SJWs, we're one of you. Buy our razors. One of the things that's so frustrating about my former belief system is how it renders its devotees incapable of thought. When I was wrapped up in it, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, though I would have said that I did. What I was really doing was mental gymnastics and organizing words in order to voice the tenets of the ideology correctly. I'm convinced it's this inability to think without self-censoring that's responsible for ideologues being blind to many of their own hypocrisies and contradictions. For example, one of the things that intersectional feminism, or SJW ideology, gets right, in my opinion, is the idea that little girls who absorb sexist ads might be affected negatively. But for some reason, they can't see that it's just as deleterious for little boys to absorb this kind of anti-male sexism. And it is sexism. Yes, I know that SJW ideology has tried to redefine sexism so that they may claim it impossible to be sexist towards men and boys. Think hard for a minute about why they might want to do that. I reject their redefinition outright. If you're treating people differently because of their sex, if you're prejudiced towards them because of it, that's sexist. And we don't cure sexism with sexism. SJW media has been busy today, telling us that anyone who didn't like the ad, quote, must be in favor of bad men, end quote. That's from MSN. That we don't understand the concept of toxic masculinity. There's sort of SJW splaining it to us, you might say. That this was not a condemnation of all men. But this is not, as Gillette described it, a commercial about a few bad apples. Why would it need to be addressed if they felt it was just about a few men? No, this is an ad about masculinity and men and boys and in general, like masculinity, men and boys in general being a problem, being toxic, being bullies, being harassers. But the truth is, most men don't need this lecture. The ones who do won't be reached by it, and it's toxic for little boys to be indoctrinated with SJW tenets like toxic masculinity. Imagine, if you will, the response if Gillette put out an ad about toxic femininity. Would the same people call it empowering and necessary? I don't think so. I think they would rightly have a problem with it. And then I ended it with this response. Hi, Rita. Thank you for your comments. Our intent is not to blame all women. We know many women are already acting as incredible role models. We want to celebrate that and encourage these women to hold others accountable, because a few bad apples are a few too many. We will also be holding ourselves to a higher standard, because it's only by challenging ourselves to do more that we get closer to our best. Buy our lady razors. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too awkward for you guys to listen to. This is my first time doing this. I was kind of nervous reading something like this on camera. So thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video, if you like our podcast, please share it. Click the like button and all those things you're supposed to do if you like it, and tell people about it, what have you. You can follow us on Twitter at Unsafe Show. You can follow us on YouTube at, the channel is called Unsafe Space. And we also have a Facebook page for Unsafe Space, and we have one for Deprogrammed. Thanks again for watching, and have a good night, guys.